back to the breaking news. The US military has seized the Marinara oil tanker linked with Venezuela.
Well, joining us now for an update on what has been happening over the course of the last few hours is our national reporter, Charlie Peters. Charlie, what can you tell us?
Well, I can tell you now that it was a coordinated US government effort led by the Department of Homeland Security with support from US military units in both the North Atlantic and also in the Southern Caribbean, in the Caribbean Sea, because not only has the US government seized and boarded the Marinara tanker in the North Atlantic, it has also successfully said that it has seized the MT Sophia, another what they're describing as a stateless, sanctioned dark fleet motor tanker without incident. That was the seizing they took in operation in the south this morning. They said that it was a pre-dawn action. So very much linking up and coordinating with the US military efforts in the North Atlantic as well. Now, it appears, based on military flight patterns this morning, and also what we're seeing from the Royal Air Force over the North Atlantic, it's highly likely that the United Kingdom was closely involved in that operation in the North Atlantic because many of the US assets involved actually came out of RAF bases. And then also it appears that RAF maritime surveillance jets, such as the P-8, the Poseidon from RAF Lossiemouth, was deployed overhead at the time, likely looking for any Russian vessels that could have been approaching to support and escort this Marinara tanker. Just to take a step back and look at the wider picture here, why have they gone in to seize it? Well, in August, this tanker left Iran and went through to Venezuela, arriving in December. There was an attempted boarding by the United States Coast Guard at that time, but the vessel resisted it and then fled towards the North Atlantic.
Every time you're online, your money and your identity are at risk. Scams now make up nearly 40% of all crime in the UK. That's thousands of attacks every single day. In Britain, someone has their identity stolen every 2 minutes, leaving victims with wrecked finances and years of stress. The threat is real, and you could be next. ExpressVPN is your shield against criminals. It locks down your devices, hiding your personal information and financial details from hackers, scammers, and anyone else looking to exploit you. So whether you're checking your bank, shopping, or just browsing, ExpressVPN makes you invisible to prying eyes trying to steal your money and your identity. ExpressVPN shields your data with military-grade AES 256 encryption. That's the same standard trusted by the US government to guard classified information. This is the highest level of online security you can get. So don't wait for disaster. Secure up to 14 devices at once and get powerful password protection. Real support is available 24/7 because cybercrime never sleeps. Save up to 73% on annual plans today. Every moment you hesitate is another moment you're exposed. Protect your money and protect your identity. Get ExpressVPN right now.
It has been pursued by the US Coast Guard since then. And on Sunday, after the dramatic raid in Caracas, when Nicolas Maduro was abducted from his own bedroom along with his wife, we saw at least 10 C-17 cargo planes arriving in the United Kingdom's RAF Fairford and Mildenhall, carrying what appear to be the same sort of helicopters used in the Venezuelan raid into the United Kingdom. We've also seen US Special Forces practicing raiding and fast roping drills. We've seen V-22 Ospreys and other Special Forces aircraft practicing over the east of England, off the coast of Suffolk as well. So all the evidence was there, all the indicators and warnings that the United States was preparing to board and seize this tanker. But where was the final move launched from? It's possible, I think, Tom and Nana, that they launched from Iceland instead, because that vessel, the Marinara, was tracking towards Iceland, having seen, as we all saw, I assume, the military build-up in Britain. They did not want to be close to the United Kingdom. They wanted to get away from the maximum range of those helicopters and those Osprey vehicles, which is about 500 nautical miles. But it appears that while all eyes were on Britain, the United States could have moved some of those assets into Iceland, because a Little Bird helicopter very much on the smaller side of the assets available to the specialist aviation regiment involved. That was the final piece of equipment that landed onto the Marinera tanker earlier today at around 11:30 our time. So that tanker being boarded, and it's on its way right now towards the United Kingdom. We don't know where the US government intends to take this tanker. We don't know if it's been given clearance to be held at a deep sea port in Britain. It certainly was never meant to be heading towards Great Britain. It appeared to be going towards Russia, but it could soon arrive at a port in the UK under the protection of the US and the British armed forces, and indeed the police involved then as well, we expect. But a big question is going to be now on the Russian reaction. It was very clear that Russia did not want the West to get access to this vessel. They made quite extraordinary diplomatic moves to prevent it. For what was a stateless oil tanker moving from Iran to Venezuela, seemingly with no link to Russia whatsoever, their sudden moves on New Year's Eve to make a formal diplomatic request from the Kremlin to Washington to say, do not take this tanker. One key warning that what is on that vessel is more than has been reported at this stage. It certainly hasn't got any oil on it, Tom and Nana. It was heading to Venezuela to pick up oil. Didn't pick up any of that because it was blocked by the Coast Guard. So we could soon find out why the US government has been so eager to detain and seize this tanker. What was it carrying?
Exactly. Good question, Charlie Peters. Thank you very much. That is the big question. I can't wait to find out what that is. He's our GB News national reporter. Joining us now is military historian Dr. Robert Lyman. So, Robert, we were talking that this is like a sort of game of battleships, isn't it? Only we shouldn't be excited by this, but it is slightly excitable. What is going on?
It is quite extraordinary, and it's a little bit like a game of battleships. Here we have international events, international diplomacy, actually reducing itself to a ship in the mid-Atlantic, and the drama around it is extraordinary at a number of levels. One is the grabbing of the ship by American Special Forces, and the other is the international ramifications of that. But it's reflective of what's going on, of course, with regard to Venezuela and the global debates about whether this is legal or illegal, and indeed whether we should support, whether we in the global and collective sense support what Donald Trump is doing. What Donald Trump is clearly doing is in what he perceives to be his country's national interest, and he's right to do that, whatever we think of it. The reality is here, with a ship in mid-Atlantic, is you could have all sorts of crazy ramifications. It's quite clear to me the United States were very keen to get this ship before a Russian frigate or destroyer turned up, because otherwise we might have had an exchange of shots. So it was very, very important that happened. I'm also suspicious about the ship itself. I know that it's a sanctioned buster, but why were they so desperate to get away? It's simply not a matter of the crew saving themselves. It's just another sanctioned ship. I think there might be something that we don't know about in terms of what it's carrying. But the other thing to bear in mind is there has been some talk about this being, why is America capturing a Russian ship? Well, of course, it's not a Russian ship. But even if it were a Russian ship, doesn't this play counter to the argument that Donald Trump's in Putin's pocket? Well, of course, that's absolute nonsense. Donald Trump isn't in Putin's pocket. He's doing what he thinks is right for the United States, and capturing the ship is very important. We can't have sanction busters.
Now, where does Britain fit in all of this? Because, of course, we've had aeroplanes take off from American bases in Britain. It looks likely that this tanker is now heading towards Britain, either Liverpool or Glasgow. In many ways, this is now a British problem. And for a Prime Minister who tried to sort of wash his hands of Venezuela, saying he didn't have all the information, he wasn't briefed, it's not his problem, he doesn't want to sort of make an opinion on it.
He does that all the time.
It seems like he has to make an opinion on this.
It's placed our Prime Minister in a very, very difficult position, of course, and I'm not going to pretend to know how he's going to try and get out of it. It's a very difficult one because the reality is we are intimately bound up with this operation because America is our closest ally and the United Kingdom is an American aircraft carrier. All the forces...
Airstrip 1.
Airstrip 1. All, if not, or most if not all of the forces that were used to capture this ship came from the United Kingdom. And of course, as you said quite correctly, it will end up going to a British port. So at an operational or a military level, we are intimately bound up with what has happened. And there is no doubt that British military capabilities, certainly with the Royal Air Force, will have been closely involved in the operation. We have no choice about that because we have outsourced much of our security infrastructure to the United States over the last 80 years. We don't have capability that they have, and we are linked into it, whether we like it or not, as part of the NATO apparatus. And for me, that's a very good thing.